I call myself analog-holic on YouTube, but my primary allegiance is to music itself. Given that there is so much music that's available only on the CD format, my search to find a silver disc spinner capable of bringing me the same levels of sonic excitement that my analog rig brings has brought me to this Yamaha CD2100. I want to talk about the sonic performance of this CD SACD player, also as a standalone DAC and transport, and watch till the end as I even compare it to some expensive analog rig setups. And we'll also address some of the quirks you might have read about this CD player. The Yamaha CD2100 player sells for about $3,500 USD new, but has been recently discontinued by Yamaha. So watch out for sales, as some online retailers are selling it for less. Also, you can find refurbished units sold for about $1,800. The player itself is built like a battleship, weighs a heavy 35 pounds. Standard width of about 17 inches, but significantly deep, about the same 17.25 inches. Very elegant front layout, very easy to use and very intuitive when dealing with dual layered SACD hybrid discs, as it even has a CD SACD layer button. Also easy when selecting the source so as to use this as a CD player or a standalone DAC with optical, coax or USB inputs. Some quirks here which I will address a bit later. The back of the unit is also very cleanly laid out. Balanced and unbalanced outputs, digital inputs and digital outputs if you want to use this as a transport only device. Internally, the chassis is stiffened extensively by a frame brace from front to back, and the front plate is a solid aluminum, a 1/4 inch thick plate to achieve the exceptional rigidity. The unit has independent power supplies for analog and digital sections. The analog power supply with a toroidal transformer and digital power supply and the related circuits are completely separated from each other to minimize interferences. The transport consists of a highly rigid aluminum tray to minimize vibrations while the disc is spinning. As for the DAC, the CD2100 features the ESS technology ES9016 digital to analog converter, which is a 32-bit built-in master clock for reclocking and reducing jitter. The chip's 8-channel design uses 4 channels per side in a double differential setup. Now, all of that doesn't mean anything at all if it doesn't equate to superb sonic performance. So, does it sound highly detailed? Is it very digital-like, or does it sound natural with that analog feel? I will answer all those questions. But first, a little bit about my setup. I used the CD2100 as a CD player first, but also as a standalone DAC using its coax and optical inputs. Using the Blue Node 2i streamer as a source and streaming lossless from Tidal. I also used it as a transport by sending the optical signal out to DACs like the Chord Qtist and some older DACs like the Benchmark DAC 1 and the Centrance DAC. I primarily used the balanced XLR outs to my balanced Musical Fidelity M6 preamplifier. Power amp is a Chord T-Toby. Speakers are the 4-Pi from Pi Speakers and sometimes the Acoustic Energy Coriniums. Let's talk CDs first. There is so much great music that you can get only on CD and not on vinyl. Well, maybe on streaming services as well, but I'm speaking of physical media. Telarc is one of those labels on CDs that really gets me excited. Telarc is a pioneer in digital recording, employing high-quality recording techniques, minimal signal processing, and excellent mastering for capturing and preserving lifelike dynamics in recordings. I seek these Telarc recordings out in the used collection bins in stores, and you can get them for pretty cheap. Some fine examples are Dave Brubeck's Late Night Brubeck Live from the Blue Note, and the legendary Oscar Peterson Trio Saturday Night at the Blue Note as well. These recordings capture the power of hearing instruments live and that lifelike atmosphere of the performance venue. On this disc, Late Night Brubeck, tracks like These Foolish Things, Here's That Rainy Day, the medley, and the coda song transport me directly to the live performance. Listening via the CD2100 brings that majestic piano tone, not just with weight, but also with the nuances that Brubeck intended you to hear. The flute on coda song is breathtakingly delicate and yet powerfully emotive. That breezy texture from the instrument feels so lifelike. On the Oscar Peterson Trio disc, tracks like Nighttime and You Look Good to Me just touch the soul. And with the CD2100, the music layers unravel with exquisite depth. Just describing the sound by saying great bass, sweet mid-range, and exquisite airy highs would be doing you and this Yamaha a great disservice. All that greatness in bass and treble and mids are all true indeed. But with well-recorded discs, the journey into the music is an emotional one. The CD2100 reproduced music with stunning realism. Oscar Peterson's piano playing is majestic sounding with great presence and melody. And speaking of melody, we have those gorgeous, warm, but well-defined guitar tones from Herb Ellis. The texture from Bobby Durham's drumming adds so much depth and dimension to this recording. Another Telarc gem is this double CD set by Jacques Louzier called My Personal Favorites, the Jacques Louzier Trio Plays Bach. Listening to the track Air on G string or Toccata and Fugue in D minor, from the first note of the piano and the upright bass, you know this is some real serious high-end hi-fi. The CD2100 reproduced the weight of the piano and upright bass with incredible realism. It's like hearing the piano breathe right in your listening room. The tension created by the piano and the upright bass was both anchoring and unsettling at times. Such was the realism produced while listening to this disc. Seek out these recording guys. I think you will love them as much as I do. Okay, now let's talk SACD performance and some well-recorded classic rock, or in this case, some heavy blues rock. This is Cream. This SACD is really well done. Listening to the track Toad via the CD2100 was really fun. Ginger Baker's legendary drum solo is reproduced with stunning clarity. Kick drum punches have that earthy weight to them. The snare cracks are crisp and textured. Cymbals shimmer and decay naturally, revealing intricate layers of texture that seem blurred on lesser capable CD players. But you should expect that for a CD player that costs $3,000. So how does that compare to when listening to an analog setup, say like the Riga P10 or a Lin LP12 using a high-end moving coil cartridge? While spinning the same track on Cream's Wheel of Fire on this reissue, equally powerful bass and clarity, but I feel like the drum solo presented on this is a bit more raw and unfiltered on the analog rig. More propulsive force is how I would characterize the analog presentation via these high-price analog setups. However, the price of these analog setups far exceeds the cost of this CD player. How about this SACD from MoFi, Santana's Abraxas? The opening of Singing Winds, Crying Beasts is an atmospheric masterpiece, and via the 2100, it is an immersive 3D-like experience. The track begins with a whisper of a wind-like percussion swirling across the soundstage. The cymbals shimmer delicately, creating an airy, ethereal texture that feels organic and hypnotic. The distant reverb-soaked guitar tunes emerge, and they seem to float in space. Their sustained notes bloom with depth and have that lovely tonal warmth. The low end subtly pulses, grounding the soundstage without overpowering the delicate upper frequencies. Absolutely delightful soundstage and a very spacious sound, provided of course your amplification and your speakers are capable of delivering this enveloping and captivating experience. Compare this to the wonderful Super Vinyl reissue, again by MoFi, played back on the Riga P10 or the LP12 setups. Very comparable soundstage depth and spaciousness. However, I feel like the energy from the frenetic strumming on tracks like Si Acabou was more raw and immediate on the analog setups. Also, more richness and body of the guitar tones on tracks like Samba Party. Again, the price of the Riga or the Lin analog setup is about 3 times more than the cost of this Yamaha CD2100. Streaming from the Node 2i and using the CD2100's built-in DAC was an enjoyable experience. I used both coax and the optical inputs of the CD2100. The raw energy from Alice in Chains' debut album Facelift is primal, unfiltered, and utterly gripping. From the opening of the track We Die Young, the song announces itself with a crushing weight. Jerry Cantrell's guitar snarls with a thick, overdriven bite that feels both aggressive and eerily melodic. The bass growls with a menacing presence, locking in with the drums to form this rhythm section that feels like an unstoppable landslide. Love, Hate, Love from the same album is a slow-burning, visceral explosion of raw energy and emotion. The track starts with this brooding intensity, building from a melancholic opening into almost a destructive display of anguish. Then there's Lane Staley's voice, pure, unfiltered catharsis. His delivery starts menacing but yet restrained, simmering just below the surface only to erupt into gut-wrenching wails that cut through the mix like a knife. The way he bends notes, his voice teetering between control and unhinged emotion, is chilling and hypnotic. God, I sound like and feel like a psycho describing that, but that's how emotive this music is to me, and that's how it was preserved and reproduced by this Yamaha CD2100. I did not get to test the USB input. Using the 2100 as a transport, I compared the DAC's performance alone to that of the Chord Cutist. There seemed to be a smidge of darkness to the Yamaha and a slight bit of openness and air and shimmer from the cymbal work via the Cutist. But the bass foundation on the Yamaha was just terrific. To me, it seemed preferable. Bass on the Yamaha had more weight and was more nuanced. What about some quirks about this player? You might have read some complaints online that this has some problems reading hybrid SACDs. And that is in fact true. Sometimes I have to put in a single layered SACD disc and retry the hybrid again successfully. The other quirk that can get very annoying is the slow speed of reading of some of those hybrid SACD discs. I then begin to think of those comments I read online and wonder, uh-oh, am I going to see that error message that they write about? It manages to read all SACDs with some coaxing, like I mentioned. One more inconvenience I should mention. Say that you were listening to a CD last before turning it off, and you return the next day or a few hours and turn on this player. It defaults to the CD, which is fine, but you know you want to listen to your streamer now. And you try switching the DAC inputs like optical or coax. Nothing happens for a good few seconds. You have to wait till it finishes checking for a CD in the tray. Then it will load that CD. Only then does it allow you to switch to the other inputs so you can use the DAC. Yes, it's a little bit of an annoyance, but something I'm very willing to overlook given the strong performance of this CD player. But please note that to realize its full capability, you need to partner it with good electronics. I regret selling the matching integrated amplifier, the Yamaha AS2100. It was an excellent match. However, I love the performance when I use the CD2100 with my musical fidelity M6 preamp and the amazing Chord T-Toby power amp. And the speakers like the Acoustic Energy Corinium will definitely showcase its full potential. What SACD players have you experienced that made you feel like being in the room with the artist? Let me know in the comments.